So if this gets a sequel, we all know what it's going to be called, right? 7600? Alright, yeah, that wasn't that good. 7500 stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Tobias, a co-pilot on a flight from Berlin to Paris. Once in the air, hijackers take control of the flight, killing the other pilot and leaving Tobias by himself, once he knocks one unconscious and locks the others out of the cockpit. And as the remaining hijackers try breaking in and start taking passengers hostage, Tobias does what he can to save their lives as well as his own, mainly by trying to form a connection with one of them. Movies taking place inside one location are often intriguing. Confining everything to one room or one building or whatever forces the filmmakers to try to find creative ways to build tension. Movies like 12 Angry Men and Rear Window are classic examples of this, while some more recent films that pull this off well are Buried, Wreck, and Moon, all fantastic films. And this movie manages to pull off doing this as well. It primarily takes place inside the cockpit with Joseph Gordon-Levitt by himself, but throughout the movie he has to try reasoning and negotiating with these hijackers. And he's told by ground control no matter what he does, do not open the door to the cockpit for them. So he's forced to speak to them over the pager or he's screaming at them through the door, and we never actually leave the room to get a point of view from the rest of the plane. So the only view of the hijackers that we get is through this tiny monitor, almost like an old closed-circuit television, and this is all we get in terms of location. But it does a great job at creating tension. There's definitely a claustrophobic feel when watching, since Joseph Gordon-Levitt is stuck in the cockpit and he feels powerless to do anything to try and help the situation. But the editing and camera work is fantastic. It plays around with the location so the shots don't feel static or boring. It's mostly extreme close-ups, but it moves around the cockpit quite frequently, so that you feel as if you're in there with Joseph Gordon-Levitt himself. Plus, even the way it makes use of seeing the hijackers through the screen. It may be tiny, but you see them go off camera sometimes, and you can clearly hear them interacting with some of the passengers, and there are times where you'll be on the edge of your seat wondering what's gonna happen next, as Joseph Gordon-Levitt is sweating his next decision. So it does a fine job playing around with the limited room it has. Patrick Vollrath, who wrote and directed this film, this is his feature-length debut, and he does an impressive job here. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt, his performance is great. He is ultimately the one who truly carries this movie. You see it in his face, he's trying as hard as he can to make the most rational decision possible. But in plenty of these instances, he only has seconds to come to a decision. He's pleading with the hijackers not to harm anyone on board, and you can sense the pain in his voice when he has to stand his ground and not give in to any of their demands, even though it may cost someone their life. Nothing he says or does is an easy decision, and he sells it all the way here. I will say though, in terms of issues, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is really the only one who's fully developed here. There's not much else in the way of character development. Even though part of the story revolves around one of the hijackers being nervous and Joseph Gordon-Levitt trying to form a connection with him, they don't play more into that aspect until much later on. So a good chunk of this movie is just Joseph Gordon-Levitt trying to plead and negotiate with the hijackers. Omid Memar, who plays Vedat, the nervous hijacker in question, he is very good here. But for most of the movie, he's just seen as this nervous guy on a screen who's arguing with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He doesn't begin to have any sort of character development until the third act. Now, Joseph Gordon-Levitt tries tapping into that nervousness as a way of reaching him, but it's not like they're having some sort of meaningful heart-to-heart as they're going through these negotiations. And while this movie definitely felt intense, not having fully developed villains can take away from the emotional weight of the situation. Some of the material we don't see until towards the end, it could have leaned more into that stuff earlier on. Otherwise, we're just watching generic bad guys for most of this movie, and that's not all that compelling. It's nice to see Joseph Gordon-Levitt in a lead role again. It's been way too long. I wouldn't call this his absolute best return to the spotlight, mainly because we have generic, underdeveloped villains, and it makes some of their interactions not as emotionally intense as they should have been. But this is still a solid film overall. It does a great job at building tension in this one space, mainly due to some fantastic camera work. Plus, it has a great lead performance from Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And these two elements combined are enough to make it an effective thriller and a solid debut from Patrick Vollrath. 7500 gets a 7 out of 10. So let me know, did you see 7500 or are you planning to see it, and what were your thoughts? Did you find it suspenseful? Did you like Joseph Gordon-Levitt's performance? And what's one of your favorite movies taking place in one location? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it, and for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching everyone, I'll catch you next time.